Hey, what's up? Eli Skinner here with Simplify Real Estate. Just wanting to go over some things with you. We're here in the training room as always and wanted to make sure that you are as equipped as possible to be amazing agents. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, at least the one on this video, are inspections. So one of the things with inspections is it's like, okay, order inspections. Well, you may not know what is available to you. I'm going to give you some of the ones that are very common, ones you're going to run into a lot. They're not all applicable, but they are definitely all valuable if you need them. The reality is give your clients the options. Let them pick. This is a lot of money, okay? So if they want to do them all, great. If they don't, great. It's totally up to them. Just make sure that they know what's available to them. And depending on the house and the situation, you may actually direct them a little more sternly one direction or the other. So just real briefly, and it's going to be a short one here. Home inspection. This is the typical home inspection. I always tell my clients, plan on $500. It's probably going to be less than that. You can certainly find a guy. But here's the deal. If you find a guy that's doing it for $75, you're not getting a home inspection. Okay? That's not there's something wrong. So it's $400, $500. You may get a guy that gives some crazy discounts. He's some good old boy, does it for $250. But to be honest, you're wanting to get a company or an individual who's been doing this for a long time. They're charging a legit amount of money. They're doing a great job writing a good report. So spend time looking at the reports, because not all the reports are created equal. Some of the reports are really tough to read, or they're just not great. Some of them are super good. So I don't know, I feel like my English is off there, but you get my point. They're not all home inspectors are created equal. But here's one thing, remember we talked about this, that the job of a good home inspector is to make you feel like a perfectly good house is falling over. If they haven't done that, then A, the house is actually in super, super good shape, like a new build or something, or they didn't do their job. So always prep your clients for the worst. Make sure they realize that that's the job of the home inspector, so they're not caught off guard. And tell your sellers, for instance, I tell my sellers, don't even read the whole home inspection. Just look at the response, go to the appropriate pages of the inspection report, and don't read the rest of it, because to be honest, why get mad? Okay, so that's the deal. Home inspection. That's the typical one. That's what everybody orders. That's called normal. Make sure on every house your clients are getting that. If they don't want that, totally cool. If they're an investor, that's fine. That's normal. But basically, I want in writing from them more than maybe even just my paper that they don't want a home inspection. They've been advised otherwise. I'm going to get an email from them saying, hey, Eli, please, we know that you mentioned getting a home warranty. I'm not going to get one. We don't want to mess with it. Like, okay, cool. No problem. I'm going to put that in their file. You know what I mean? I'm going to cover myself on that side. Wood destroying insect. Some people are going to call it a termite inspection. Okay, this is going to be what you're going to get some of this during the home inspection. So your home inspector is going to be in the crawl space, looking at the floor joists and the baseboard, and they're going to see evidence of possible wood destroying insect activity. That's all they're going to say. They're going to say, I recommend having a WDI, a wood destroying insect professional, come in and do this. This can be an add-on to your current home inspection for probably $75, or you can just call a guy independently. It may be a little bit more. I know one of the guys I use is $125. He's going to do this. He's going to basically say, I do see evidence. I don't see evidence. I see past evidence. I see live animals, live bugs. I see dead bugs. I see no bugs. He's going to go through all of this. I recommend treatment. I don't recommend treatment. If I do, here's where it's at. I'm going to go through this whole thing. Well, he's going to provide you a wood destroying insect report, and that's a real official report, especially if you're dealing with a VA loan. Now, on a VA loan, that has to be paid for. This must be paid for by the seller. Okay? So when you accept a VA loan purchase agreement as a seller, you are knowing that you're going to be paying $75 to $125 for a wood destroying insect deal. Now, the way that this should go down, in my opinion, is that the buyer pays for it and then at closing gets credited from the seller. But that's not the way all agents do it, especially some of the older school agents. They want the seller to pay for it up front, which I think is stupid, because if you don't close my house, I don't plan on paying for your wood destroying insect thing on your VA loan. But it does stick with the house as far as I understand it, so you'll have it for the next VA loan if you do need it, or you'll have it for the next buyer in general. But that has to be paid for by the seller one way or the other. Either the seller pays for it up front, the seller pays for it at closing if the guy will wait, or the seller credits the buyer if the buyer pays for it prior to closing. Now that's the wood destroying insect. That's going to be important most of the time when wood is touching or near touching the ground. So every home has that situation, but your ones like crawl spaces are your number one issue for wood destroying insect. A lot of garages have issues. Okay. Radon. Radon is a naturally occurring substance. It is air is the wrong word. It is a gas. Okay, it occurs, and it actually is heavier than air, so it flows like water into the deepest recesses of wherever it's at. So now it can be blown and stuff because with wind, but it's not as heavy as water, but it's heavier than air. So what's happening is the world around us has created radon, or it's naturally occurring. You find it outside the house, inside the house, whatever. But it's a gas that when it breaks down into, like, I don't know, I'm not a chemist, but like its half-life, it becomes radioactive. So if you're in a 150-year-old house and it's had a radon level of 50 for the last 150 years, well, guess what? The walls are radioactive, okay? So that's a big deal. Yeah, if you're in a brand new house and the radon levels are an 8, it's not that big a deal, like from a chemist standpoint, because of the fact that it hasn't broken down significantly enough to cause tons of radioactivity. However, if you imagine this breakdown happening inside your body, that's how people get cancer. They breathe it in, part of the radon doesn't come back out when they exhale, and it breaks down slowly, and eventually you have this radioactive material inside of your body, and so that's why it's dangerous. It can cause cancer. That's what radon is. So most people, if you're buying a house and you're not really worried about radon, I'm not really worried about radon, as you can tell. This is not a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a chemist. You can go research radon on your own. You can completely ignore everything I just said if you want. But I'm not really worried about radon. I'm more worried about the 150-year-old house that's got radioactive walls because of the radon after it broke down after all that time. I'm not worried about breathing it in and breathing it out. I eat Big Macs. They're going to kill me faster, okay? So, but the problem is not that I worry about radon. The problem is that I have to sell this house eventually, and the next guy's probably going to worry about radon, okay? So you want to make sure you get it tested for radon if you're in a basement. People do test ranch houses. People do on slabs, on crawl spaces. People test houses that makes no sense to me, because if there's radon in my ranch house, it's probably because there's radon outside my front yard too, and it's probably the same because we're all at ground level. Now, no guarantees, but some people do test ranch houses, and you can actually get it out of the house. That's the key component. But most of the time you're talking basements, and specifically basements where you're going to spend a lot of your time. You're going to have a radon test done. They're going to set a machine. Generally, the good ones are going to set a machine down there for 48 hours, do an average reading. Okay? Radon will be high if it is super saturated ground, super high winds. So you think a big spring storm and you have a radon test in the middle of it or just after, your radon levels are going to be way high, double, triple, quadruple what they are normally, okay? But it's the reality of it. But keep that in mind when you're working with your clients, when you're working with the other people, that if you're a seller and they go, oh, you had an 8 radon. Yeah, but Noah's flood just ended. All the radon got pushed out of the ground because of the water table coming up. Of course it's higher than it would be. So you can then negotiate that, retest it later when it dries out, that sort of thing. Radon's a test for basements and other livable spaces that are down low. You can do it on anything. It's always an option. But like I said, radon, even if your buyer is not scared of radon, your buyer's future buyer might be. And so you want to get rid of it. Sewer scope. If you're dealing with an old house, if you're dealing with any house, this is a possibility. But if you're dealing with an old house downtown, I know we've got one talking about in Franklin, old house like 1870 or something. I mean, this thing may have had a sewer in there since it was born, and that's going to be, who knows what it is, if it's cracked, crumbling, if there's tree roots in it, if it's going to work, who knows. So you want to get that thing scoped. They're going to send a camera down, and they're going to run it all the way to the road, unless it gets stopped by a blockage, of course. But they're going to run a camera in through what's called the sewer cleanout. In these old houses, it's in the basement most of the time. They're going to run a camera in, scope it out, give you a report, a video, all that mess. It might cost you $200, $250, but it's well worth it because a new sewer is a lot more expensive than that. So that should pop up in your brain as an agent, especially on older homes. If you're dealing with 1950 and older, in city situations, that's when I'm starting to really think about a sewer scope, or at least recommending it for sure. This one here is an interesting one. Firebox and chimney level 2 clean and inspect, okay, by a certified chimney sweep. This is something that I've got worked out with a chimney guy. He'll do it for very inexpensive for me, like $55. He'll give me a report and an estimate of repair, but you want to make sure this is done. If you run into a house with a chimney, get it inspected, because there could be $15,000 of hidden work in that chimney, okay, especially older homes, especially wood burning fireplaces, okay. But that's what you're going to want to, well, here's two things. Here's the interesting piece. You're going to ask for this on the inspection report. So if the guy says, oh, it looks like they've been using the fireplace, but it hasn't been cleaned because it's covered in soot, whatever, okay. You're going to say, okay, have the fireplace clean and inspected level 2 by a certified chimney sweep. Well, they may say, okay, and do it, okay. They may play hardball and say, no, inspections are your responsibility, buyer, so I'm not doing it. You can get your own, because this is clearly not a defect, because you haven't found anything wrong because you didn't inspect it. So it's important to, you can try to get the seller to pay for that, but sometimes they won't. I mean, I've never had one tell me no, but I have absolutely told people no, because it's not our responsibility as the seller to do the inspection on my own house. You're buying it, you're inspecting it, you're paying for it, okay? That's that, but that's a hidden place. You don't want to forget that. Anytime you see a chimney, assume you're having an inspection on it. Well water test, that's important if you've got a well. So that's, I'll write one more down. If you've got a well, they're going to do a well water test. There's a couple different tests. First, they're going to test for like bacteria. They're going to test for like lead and nitrates and these other things. You're going to get these responses back, and you're going to make decisions. They're going to tell you, yeah, you're good to go. Yeah, you're not good to go. Coliform is a common bacteria to be found in a well. It's an indicator bacteria. Says there might be a problem. Not always a problem, but you can get it treated. It's very easy normally, and it's done, but you want to get a well water test, I would say. I mean, the reality is you're moving into a house that some family's been living in for 10 years. They're not dead, you probably won't die, but you might as well have your clients decide not to get the well test after they know that it exists. Don't leave them in the cold though. Sewer I didn't mean sewer there. That is supposed to say septic. Sometimes it goes hand in hand with the well water, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they're on well and not septic, sometimes they're on septic and not well. But the septic inspection, they're going to pump, you know, one of the things they're going to do, they're going to put a dye test in the water. They're going to see where it comes out. If it comes out, they're going to pump hundreds of gallons of water into the septic as fast as they can to see if it backs up or if it actually leaches out into the field or the grass like it's supposed to through the fingers. But a septic inspection is important because it's similar to a sewer scope. You don't want to make sure that this junk is working, or else your junk is coming back in the house. All right, that's pretty simple. HVAC, this is another one of these right here, this firebox chimney level 2 thing. HVAC's the same way. You're going to get your inspector in the home inspection. He's going to be saying, ooh, this is dirty. This probably needs to be checked by a pro. He's going to say, ooh, this is dirty. This probably needs to be checked by a pro. So you can have an HVAC clean and inspection, no problem. I've got guys that will do a cleaning and inspection for $70 or something, or $80 per thing, or $150 total. They'll do your HVAC and your AC. But again, try and get your seller to pay for that if you're the buyer, but they don't have to. It's your responsibility as the buyer to inspect anything you want inspected. So these are the common ones. Make sure you know them, make sure your client knows them, let them choose what they want to do. It's all about risk analysis for them. So they may be risky, they may not be risky, but give them the option, okay? We're gonna jump into some questions, and so we'll see you in just a second. Okay, hey, Eli Skinner here, back with some questions about this inspection video that we've just done. First of all, the question is, who attends the inspection? What do you do? How does all this work? Well, here's the deal. As an agent, I don't go to inspections. I do not want the notion that I am an expert at any level, or I am paying attention and I'm going to remember something unless it's on the report. We can call the inspector back, we can read the report, but I am not going to be sitting there going, oh, I'm pretty sure he said that the plumbing was fine, and then find out it wasn't. I mean, like, I'm just not into that. So I don't go, but I do suggest the homeowner go, but I normally suggest that they go near the end of the inspection as to not bother the inspector, and then let the inspector just kind of take them through the details and things that are important. But you're going to get the reports back. You're going to look through those with them. You're going to maybe, make sure they're not missing anything major when they're kind of thinking through their report. They're going, okay, what's important to us? What needs to be fixed? Because the goal here is we're paying X number of dollars for a house. And if we believe we are paying full price, over full price, we are expecting and full price, a full house. Like it's like we want the whole thing and we want it in good condition. And part of the good condition is a roof that's not leaking. Like that just makes sense. So that's our goal, is to not nitpick everything to death, but to get to the point where we feel like we're buying the house we were expecting to buy. Because here's the logic behind it. The buyer and the seller both have agreed upon a purchase price of a house assuming a certain condition. Now those are unspoken assumptions, which is kind of why they're assumptions, I guess, maybe, but they're unspoken between the two. But when the inspection occurs, now the condition of the home potentially changes in the buyer's brain, right? So the buyer's now going, okay, I agreed to pay $100,000 for this house, assuming this condition, and now the condition looks like it's here, so we need to make up for that. We need to fix it. Now the seller is got all kinds of other things going through their mind, but the buyer's goal then is to get the house back to the condition, or get financial concessions where they can get it back to the condition in which they expected to pay the amount agreed upon. That's the goal of these inspections. Okay? Knock yourself into a bag of tricks is another one. So go to the home inspection, or have the client go to the home inspection near the end, so the home inspector can explain some stuff to them, because they will say things that aren't in the report, because they're not supposed to be in the report, but they will mention them to them, so it's very helpful. And then you're gonna get the report, and then you guys are gonna respond to it. And we've talked about inspection responses in other videos. Now, wood destroying insects, for instance, if they find wood activity of it, if they find current activity, live bugs chewing wood, like, they're gonna tell you on the wood destroying insect report, okay? They're gonna say recommend treatment, don't recommend treatment, whatever it is. If they recommend treatment and you're on a VA loan, it's gonna have to be treated. There's no option. Heck, half of them on a VA loan, if there's previous damage, you may even have to fix that. So you may have to replace, or at least sister some floor joists to make sure that they're re-supported, because there's damage from old termite activity. They're also going to be looking for, is there previous treatment? Is there evidence of previous termite or wood destroying insect treatment? If there is old activity and evidence of past treatment, you're in much better shape than if there's evidence of old activity and no treatment, because they may have just disappeared for unknown reasons and they're coming back, okay? So they're going to go through all that with you on your report. You can ask all the questions that you want, but the report is going to tell you treatment or no treatment. That's going to be the big deal, and that's kind of what you're going to begin to work off of. VA loans, terrible in this regard, because they will definitely make you do what's needed, and they don't mind holding you hostage. The rest of the stuff, I mean, same thing. You're going to get results. They're going to advise you on how to handle it. Then you're going to deal with it from a negotiation standpoint. Any other questions? Live, in person. All right, cool. See you later. Get you on the next video.